I've hunted monsters across countless dimensions, but nothing could have prepared me for the horrors I found in the Crimson Forest. When you've spent as much time as I have hopping between dimensions, you start to get a feel for the kind of places that give you the creeps. I've seen my share of horrors, things that would make the average person lose their mind. But the Crimson Forest? That place was a whole new level of fucked up. I got the call late at night, just as I was about to crack open a bottle of bourbon and call it a day. The message was brief. A new dimension had opened up, something nasty was coming through, and they needed someone with my particular set of skills to deal with it. Of course, they'd pay well. They always did. I didn't need much convincing. The money was good, and I hadn't had a decent hunt in weeks. I geared up, knife, pistol, a few vials of holy water, and my trusty shotgun, and stepped through the portal. The first thing that hit me was the smell. The air was thick with the stench of blood and decay, a sickly sweet odor that clung to the back of my throat. The sky above was a sickening shade of red, and the trees were covered in a thick, pulsating layer of flesh, their bark oozing with dark, viscous blood. "Fuck," I muttered under my breath, my hand tightening around the shotgun. This place is all kinds of wrong. I started down the narrow, winding path that cut through the forest, my senses on high alert. The ground beneath my feet squished with every step, like I was walking on a bed of rotting meat. I could hear the trees groaning, shifting, as if they were alive, and the air was filled with the sound of distant, agonized screams. I didn't have a map, didn't know what I was supposed to be hunting, but that's the job. You go in blind, follow the signs, and hope to God you come out the other side in one piece. As I moved deeper into the forest, I started to notice the bodies. Mangled, twisted corpses impaled on the branches of the trees, their eyes wide open, their faces frozen in expressions of pure terror. Some were old, their flesh rotting away, their bones exposed, while others were fresh, their blood still dripping onto the ground below. "What the hell happened here?" I whispered, my stomach churning. The thing about hunting monsters in other dimensions is that you never know what you're going to find. Sometimes it's something you can reason with, something you can kill with a bullet to the head. Other times you find yourself in places like this, where the very environment is out to get you. I kept moving, my eyes scanning the trees for any sign of movement. Every now and then, I'd catch a glimpse of something out of the corner of my eye, a flash of red, a shadow darting between the trees. But whenever I turned to look, there was nothing there. "Show yourself, you son of a bitch," I muttered, my finger hovering over the trigger of my shotgun. That's when I heard it, the sound of something massive moving through the trees, the ground shaking with each step. I spun around, raising the shotgun to my shoulder, my heart pounding in my chest. And then I saw it. The creature was massive, towering over the trees, its body covered in thick, leathery skin that pulsed and oozed with every movement. Its eyes were a sickening shade of yellow, glowing with a malevolent light, and its mouth was filled with rows of jagged, blood-stained teeth. "Jesus fucking Christ," I muttered, taking a step back. The creature let out a deafening roar, its massive claws digging into the ground as it charged toward me. I barely had time to react, raising the shotgun and firing off a round. The buckshot slammed into its chest, but the creature barely flinched, its eyes locked onto mine. "Fuck!" I shouted, turning and running as fast as I could. The ground shook beneath my feet as the creature gave chase, its massive form crashing through the trees like they were nothing. I could feel its hot, rancid breath on the back of my neck, could hear the sound of its claws tearing through the earth. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I just kept running, my heart pounding, my lungs burning, until I spotted a narrow cave opening up ahead. Without thinking, I dove inside, the creature's massive claws missing me by inches as I tumbled into the darkness. I hit the ground hard, the wind knocked out of me, but I didn't have time to recover. I scrambled to my feet, my hand searching for the flashlight in my pack. The cave was dark, the air cold and damp, the walls covered in a thick layer of slime. I could hear the creature outside, its massive body blocking the entrance, its claws scraping against the stone as it tried to get inside. Come on, I muttered, my hands shaking as I fumbled with the flashlight. Finally, the beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing the narrow passage ahead. I didn't waste any time, moving as quickly as I could through the tight space, the creature's roars echoing off the walls behind me. The passage twisted and turned, the air growing colder, the walls narrowing until I was forced to crawl on my hands and knees. The smell of blood and decay grew stronger, filling my nostrils, making my stomach turn. And then I reached the end. The passage opened up into a massive chamber, the walls lined with rows upon rows of human bodies, their skin peeled away, their muscles exposed, their faces twisted in agony. The floor was slick with blood, the air thick with the stench of death. In the center of the chamber stood an altar, carved from black stone, its surface covered in strange, pulsating symbols that glowed with a sickly red light. And on the altar lay the remains of what had once been a human being, now little more than a twisted, bloodied mass of flesh and bone. I took a step back, my heart pounding in my chest, the realization slowly sinking in. This wasn't just a hunt. This was a fucking ritual. The creature outside wasn't just a monster. It was a god. Shit, I whispered, my hands trembling. I knew then that I was in way over my head, that there was no way I was getting out of this alive. But I couldn't just leave. I couldn't let this thing continue its slaughter, couldn't let it spread to other dimensions. I had to end it. I approached the altar, my mind racing, my hands shaking as I reached for the vials of holy water in my pack. I had no idea if it would work, but it was the only thing I had left. As I poured the water onto the altar, the symbols flared to life, the red light growing brighter, more intense. The ground beneath me began to shake, the air filled with a low, guttural growl that made my blood run cold. And then the creature was there, its massive form filling the chamber, its eyes locked onto mine, filled with rage. "You're too late," I whispered, raising the shotgun to my shoulder. "You're fucking dead." I fired off the last round, the buckshot slamming into the creature's face, and then I ran. The sound of the altar exploding behind me, the chamber collapsing, the creature's roars of pain echoing off the walls. I didn't look back. When I finally stumbled out of the cave, covered in blood and grime, the sky above was clear, the air fresh and clean. The crimson forest was gone, reduced to nothing more than a pile of rubble the creature buried beneath it. I collapsed to the ground, my heart pounding, my body trembling with exhaustion. I had survived, but I knew that the crimson forest was just one of many, that there were countless other dimensions out there, each with its own horrors, its own monsters, and I would hunt them all.